Well, first of all, I just want to say that Margie and I are really honored to be in this position of leadership. I've been in Rotary for 43 years. I've got some ideas about how I think Rotary is being challenged to change and actually survive. And so those are the kinds of things that I just really wanted to share with you this afternoon. Rotary is in a bit of a state of flux, and thank you for this experiment. You know, it's way beyond an experimental stage now. I think electronic clubs are a way to telegraph to the world that Rotary is changing for the better, and we're using new technologies to get our mission done throughout the world. And so what you've done so far has been fantastic. I had an opportunity to meet with Ron Burton as we were traveling to Lisbon. He and I were on the same flight with our spouses, and because Margie has Parkinson's disease, she was upgraded to first class, and Ron and Jetta obviously need to fly first class wherever they go because of the miles that they put in. And so he took my wife under his wing and made sure that she had a great trip to Lisbon. He's that kind of a person, and I think he's going to be a tremendous leader for Rotary this coming year. But he and I have very similar agendas because he sees some of the issues that Rotary is facing today, and it's important that we understand what they are so that we can respond to them. It isn't so much about, quote, criticizing Rotary as it is to say we have real issues and how do we design programs that go about attracting solutions to those kinds of things. And so he's working on that, obviously, at an international level, and my job, of course, is with the district. I believe Rotary is at a crossroads. You know, when you look at what's happening in the world, and I've heard Rick Francona talk about this at our gatherings with District Training Assembly and other things, we are seeing a changing world order. We're going global. That isolation just doesn't exist anymore, and it's especially true in Rotary because we can see across 34,000 clubs what we do and how we go about doing it. We have demographics that need to be paid attention to. For the first time in the history of the world, we have 5 different generations in the workforce and in Rotary, and how we go about making those things all work out is really, really important in my estimation. So those are the kinds of things that I think help us understand what the crossroads look like. In our own district, we have significant competition to other organizations that provide opportunities of service. I know in my own regional area in Central Oregon, we have 390 not-for-profit organizations that all want volunteers, just like Rotary does. And so there is an ample opportunity for especially young people to say, you know, I want to be at the VIM clinic, or I want this, or I want that. And to some extent, our traditional trademark about Rotary, mostly males, mostly over 50, is hindering our message, and we need to respond to that in some fashion, just as we do with perhaps archaic practices in our clubs that no longer serve us well. And so you've got a tremendous opportunity because you're starting new, but other clubs need, in a lot of respects, to overcome some of the things that have traditionally haunted them. I was at PETS one time, and I heard a very young president, I think 32 years old, say to one of the older people, oh, great, you have 45 years of perfect attendance. Get a life. May have been tremendous. So we have to be intelligent enough, I believe, to design programs that attract older folks staying in Rotary, younger folks coming into Rotary, and making sure that the value that we provide through membership in Rotary is truly there and meets their needs over a period of time. So my question is Rotary worth preserving? You know, and my personal belief is absolutely. I think Rotary is the premier humanitarian organization in the world with 34,000 clubs in over 200 countries. we have the potential of doing amazing things, including even contributing in a vast way to world peace. But in a lot of respects, that does mean we need to question how we've done things in the past. And our future really is up to us. John Shar, who is a person that I look to quite often, talks about our future in this way, that while adaptation is important, so is being innovative and creative, because we really do create the future for the most part. And so the question then becomes, as leaders in Rotary, what kind of future do we want to create? And how do we go about putting that in place over a period of time so that it's got some continuity, so it has tremendous value to all the generations that are involved in Rotary and that we can build upon. My two passions in my life basically have been in healthcare and Rotary. And just very briefly, a lot of my thinking comes from how we have approached Rotary. I have been involved with St. Charles Health Systems in Central Oregon for a period of 43 years, just the same time that I've been in Rotary. And we had some of the same challenges and will continue to have the same challenges in healthcare. When I had an opportunity to become CEO of that organization in 1989, I did not find a healthcare system that we could be tremendously proud of. We had great clinical services, we had great science and technology, etc. But what our patients were telling us is we were really segmented, fragmented, not meeting all of their needs, and not really acting like a humanitarian organization. It was more like a business. And so we set about changing that and got involved in prevention and education in healthcare. We used things like music in the hospital just to make it more welcoming. And oh, by the way, we found out that when we had music on the patient units, requests for pain medications went down 50%. And so there was a whole new facet of healthcare that has actually spread around the world. We started massage programs not only for our caregivers but for patients. When we provided a massage for a surgical patient going into a pretty sophisticated procedure, their anxiety was less, they'd use less anesthesia, they'd recover quicker, and they would have less complications. And so we use all of those innovative approaches to try and figure out a better system. And I am struck by the parallels between what we have done in healthcare that I'm knowledgeable about with Rotary, because I think Rotary has to remind itself of the why we do Rotary. And it's all about human interrelationships and service to humanity. This slide was given to me by our Director of Healing Health Services at our hospital, and she went on to tell the story about these twins, one of which just thrived from day one and was doing great. The second one kept going downhill and downhill and downhill until after about 3 days it was very, very close to death. And then one day a nurse came along and said, how about if we try an experiment? Let's put these two kids back in the same bassinet. And after 24 hours, that child that was very close to death was back to normal. And it just illustrated to me that human interrelationships and human interactions, whether they be in a hospital or in a Rotary project, is really fundamental to what we do. Now, everything we did didn't turn out so well. This is Charlie the Bunny, who's supposed to be orienting kids to the surgical experience, and Charlie the Bunny scared the hell out of them. So we learned our lesson that not everything worked, but we always tried it. And if it didn't work, we'd make some modifications. And, you know, when it really comes to who we're treating, you always worry that are we as good as we think we are. This is my daughter who lives in Eugene now with this baby. But when she came into the hospital in a semi-emergent situation, I just hoped and prayed that we were very good at what we did and that she would get the kind of care that we could be proud of. And that same is true in Rotary. And so when we begin to look at the kinds of things that I think we can do, we have to reinvent Rotary, just like Apple has to reinvent itself or other social institutions. but we have so much to be proud of. That we have service that improves lives. We're very ethically based. When you talk about, as you did, about vocational services, we have the most tremendous approach to ethics and vocational service, and having Rotarians do business with other Rotarians. I would love to see all across our district that Rotary wheel and our ethics statements in every door in which we have a presence with various enterprises, because it helps us tell the world that this is what Rotary really is all about. It's not only service to humanity and mankind, it's also doing Rotary service well. It's treating our communities like we want to live there and we want to make them advance, and that we're really dedicated to service to humanity on a global level, which includes the communities that we serve and the communities that are even represented in our eClub. Because I truly believe we are now part of a world community. The lines between countries is dissolving, disappearing. We see that all the time on the internet and on the news. How we do our economy is partially dependent upon Europe and Greece and other places, and we do have that impact back and forth with each other. So being attuned to that and looking at the international aspects of our own district, that we've got to do community service, but we also, I believe, have an obligation to do service in a global situation, and we've done that in a big way. I have to applaud Hal Kibbe, who's now an eClub member, to really lead and has done a superb job of making our transition from Future Vision to the new model. And we've got a great program going with 10 or 11 international grants and all kinds of district grants already this year. And so we are facing up to those kinds of things in a big way and doing them great. We will continue the water projects and the stove team projects and all those other things in Rotary that I think are fundamental, but we are also strengthening what it is we do on a local level. My favorite example of this is a kids center that was built in Central Oregon. It was a $500,000 project that most of our clubs said, no way, we cannot do anything that big. But this monomaniac that kept pushing and pushing for us to do something finally said, we can get this done. And the Rotary Club said, if the only way that we can get rid of your passion is to do it, we're going to do it. And so they built this kids center. And what it basically does is take kids out of the police system or the emergency rooms that have been sexually abused. And since the inception of this project, which was incidentally supported in a tremendous way by all the various communities that it serves and the contractors and everybody else, we've treated 8,000 kids in a very therapeutic environment rather than at a police station or in an emergency room. So Rotary just does excellent and wonderful things, whether it's through duck races or some of the other things that we do. We just keep in mind that these are the kinds of kids that we're trying to support. And when you look at some statistics that could be reversed because of Rotary's work in this world, this is one of them. They don't die from just disease. They die because they don't have access to clean water or nutrition or a place to live. And those are all the instruments of peace that Ron Burton and Jim Lucier and others who are in leadership positions this year, I think, need to really focus on and articulate, because the entire world does turn to Rotary for hope. And we need to live up to that obligation and responsibility to do our level best any way we possibly can. I remember a story about an individual that was on the Oregon coast and found all of these starfish stranded on the beaches and was picking them up one at a time and tossing them back in the ocean. And another individual came along and said, "What are you doing here?" And the guy says, "I'm trying to save as many of these starfish as I can." And he says, "You can't possibly do that. There's thousands of them." and he picked one up, threw it back in the water, and said, I made a difference to that one. And so Rotary can do that. And whether we're a large club or a small club or even an individual, we can make a difference any way that we possibly can. And my elevator speech when I'm asked about what is Rotary is this, that we're a globally focused organization that inspires its members to help others through service. And we do community service worldwide. I was asked one day on an airplane by the flight attendant who saw my Rotary pin, explain Rotary to me, would you? And it was a rather long flight, and by the end of that flight, she was going to become a Rotarian. So we have that capability to do that and to come up to these kinds of things. And one of the interesting things to me is that very often in our society, we tend to get so busy with our professions and family and everything else that we are just so doing oriented. Someday we'll have what we need, and eventually we'll be the person our dog thinks we already are. I think Rotarians turn that upside down. They are what they want to see changed in the world. They are what we say our ethics are. And we have a tremendous opportunity to share that with other folks down the road, because we are leaders in service above self. And I honestly do not know of another organization that does it better than Rotary or the Rotary Foundation. So we have a lot of things to be proud of and to pursue into the long-term future. And Louis Armstrong, to me, said it best, you know, if it isn't in your heart, it won't come out your horn. Rotarians have a big heart. They have a dedicated premise to serve humanity in our own communities and worldwide, and even each other, because that's what that Rotary pin really does stand for. We do make a difference. And Polio Plus was the best personification of that. Hopefully we're going to be fundamentally successful and conclude that by the end of 2014. And if not, we're going to keep going until we do. And so Rotary does have some tremendous opportunities to build on those strengths. Redesigning our Rotary experience to better meet the needs of prospective members, strengthening our mission and what our values are, and letting the world know where we're coming from, and expanding our own networking and leadership opportunities inside of this wonderful organization that's called Rotary. And ultimately, we, I think, always have to focus on why we are here. What brings us to Rotary? Why is it meaningful personally to us? Because those are the questions that I think we have to focus on. Our district has a strategic plan under development now. I would love to have eClub members participate in that. It's going to be on every agenda of every meeting that we have this year. And its singular focus, although we take up lots of different facets of Rotary, is to support and strengthen clubs through the district services that we can provide them, through toolboxes, through sharing best practices, etc., so that we can turn around some of the vital signs that make Rotary problematic. We have shrinking membership in this district, have had for 10 years, and we've had moderating support to the Rotary Foundation that I think we need to take on and make sure that the fuel that really compels Rotary, which is people serving and dollars available to do the wonderful projects, that we turn those around in a very positive way to where we can say at the end of the next few years that Rotary is a compelling value. We should have a waiting line of people that want to join us in this wonderful organization, and that the Rotary Foundation is viewed as the best philanthropic organization in the world, because it is. Nobody does better than the Rotary Foundation in terms of scholarships, opportunities of service worldwide, and that every year we expand our capability for that global service through being successful at increasing our membership and through the support of Rotary. Because as Rotarians, we get something back. Rick King at one point in time published a little list of why people join Rotary. 19 of the 20 things that were on his list as a Rotary International president had to do with enriching our own personal lives. So we get something out of this equation. It isn't just about giving. And I firmly believe that every person that joins Rotary has that same motivation to enrich their own life through their presence in Rotary and add to their own compelling purpose on this face of the earth that we call the world. My appeal to each Rotarian then is to support and assist your club leaders in achieving your club's goals. We have tremendous goals throughout the district this year that are club-based. To share Rotary with a friend or a guest, to make sure that people have an opportunity to see what we do and how we do it, and hopefully to consider joining us in these endeavors, to support TRF in any way that's commensurate with your ability, and to be inspired by Rotary's purpose. Ron Burton, again, a good friend now, has this as his mantra this year: engage Rotary and change lives. And I personally believe that if we do that, we continue to build on the strengths of our clubs in this district as well as worldwide, and we have a shot at doing a really amazing contribution to world peace. Just two quick examples in closing. The Israelis decided they wanted to build some new clubs in the Middle East, and they didn't build them in Israel. They went to the West Bank and helped the Muslims get 2 Rotary clubs going in the West Bank. To me, those relationships now are ways of building a foundation of world peace. The same thing happened in Pakistan with polio, plus they could not get their NID, the National Immunization Days, done the way they'd like. And so who rose up to help them out but a number of clubs from India. So now the Indians and the Pakistans are talking to each other. And those, to me, are the basis that creates relationships, just like in healthcare, is so fundamentally important. It's fundamentally important to our Rotarians as well. We join Rotary for fellowship, fun, building good relationships, advancing our own professions and services, and all of those things are true reasons why Rotary ought to exist, and that we have strong motivation to change some of our vital statistics around so that 20, 30, 40 years from now we're even a stronger organization than we are today. So that's my message to you as your district governor. I hope that you find that enlightening to some extent, and that it gives you something to think about and act upon as you build the strength of your own club. And I appreciate the opportunity to join you today. It's been fun, and it's been fun to listen to what you have to do about your own future this year as the eClub of the State of Jefferson. Thanks for the opportunity to share some ideas with you.
Thank you, District Governor Jim. Really appreciate that.